So I think we've pretty much got everybody in now. And so we're going to sort of move on with what we're going to be doing today. But before that, just to remind you, if anyone is having problems along the way, or tech problems with their connection, problems with with Zoom, the support team, as always, are there in the background, willing, ready, able to help you. So you can contact them by using the chat. That will go straight through to the people who are hosting the meeting, and we can make sure that someone can get in contact with you and give you any help or support you need if you're having problems with the tech or the IT today, or anything else that you're actually having a problem with. So it does look like everyone's in, or we've still got a couple of people joining us, but they'll catch up with us. So before we go any further, I'm going to pass over now to Ian, our evidence lead, who you'll be well familiar with by now, just to give us a bit of an outline of what we're doing today and say hello.
Thanks, Kayla. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the third weekend. We're approaching halfway through on this process. And today what we're going to be looking at really is how we drive effective change. One of the things we want to do, obviously, in the Assembly is make meaningful change around quite fundamental issues. So in this weekend, really, we're going to explore the role of business, government, communities in creating change, as well as looking at what's stopping change from happening. So trying to get to those real fundamentals that underlie the surface aspects. This afternoon and all day tomorrow, we're going to be splitting into 3 groups. Each group, as you'll recall from the last time, is going to be assigned to one of 3 streams. Our 3 streams are homes and communities, work and travel, diet and lifestyle. And this is really going to be your opportunity to start to really dive deep into these topics. You're going to hear some experts talking about these areas, but you're really going to have a lot of time to start to think about the most important things to address and some of the opportunities for recommendations. So good luck with the deliberations. Thank you.
So Kelly, that will be over to you now, I think.
Good morning, everyone. Great to see you all back here. So I'm just going to give you a little bit more information about what it is that we're going to be doing together, both this weekend, but also over the next couple of weekends as well. So, of course, always good to remember the question and the reason that we're looking at effectiveness, and of course, the reason we looked at fairness last weekend, is that the real focus for this is how should Scotland change to tackle the climate emergency in an effective and fair way. So remember, the process aims to give you the time and the resources to understand the issue from a range of perspectives. So we still have a few more inputs to hear as we're going along, but you'll notice the balance between that kind of input and the deliberation time is going to start to shift a little bit as we go over the next few weekends. And of course, we want to introduce you to a range of different perspectives and to interact with the views of others before kind of committing to the recommendations and the opinions that you'll be wanting to put forward. So we are currently on weekend 3 of 6. Just a reminder that there are options for additional information and learning opportunities, either as a group or what we call asynchronously, so something that you could do outside of this assembly. There's options for us to, for example, use the learning management system and to provide you more information in different ways. And there is also the option for reviewing and commenting on the things that we're starting to put together now between weekends. So there are going to be opportunities to work in other ways too. So just to remind you where we are kind of on that journey. So weekend 3 and 4, we're, as Ian said, looking at effective change, and we're going to start going into our 3 work streams, which are diet and lifestyle, home and communities, and work and travel. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how weekend 3 and 4 are basically going to go in a moment. But we are going to come back together. Although we're going into our work streams for the next couple of weekends, we will be back together in weekend 5. And really, we'll be starting that process then of looking what's come out of all the work we've been doing in our work streams and going through a process of kind of consolidation, a refinement, and reviewing, some of the commonalities and the differences to the work that we've been doing during that time. And really, really importantly, and it's going to start this weekend, we're going to be focusing on the recommendations in weekend 6, but what we do in weekend 3, weekend 4 and weekend 5 is really going to help us to build up to that and to developing some recommendations that answer that remit question. So weekends 3 and 4. So this morning, as you know, we're going to be looking at effective change and effectiveness. And then this afternoon, we're going to go into each of our 3 different work streams. So everyone has been allocated to one of the work streams. And of course, we've had to do that in a random way. You'll get an introduction to the topic questions. So each of the 3 work streams has 4 different topic questions, and there's going to be an evidence lead attached to those work streams too, who will introduce those different topic questions. You're then going to hear a series of presentations that are designed to give a presentation that's designed to give an overview of some of the key issues related to that work stream and to the particular topics that you'll be looking at today. You're also then going to go into groups and you're going to have discussion, and you're going to explore and try to understand some of the key issues and problems and their relationship to climate change. So that's after listening to that presentation about some of the key issues. You have a bit of an opportunity in your groups to discuss and to consolidate some of that learning and to share your thoughts. We'll then be hearing a few more inputs on different perspectives on how best the types of changes needed to Scotland's existing, whatever that topic area can be delivered. So, for example, in the travel work stream, you'll be focusing on how changes needed to Scotland's existing travel can be delivered. But if you're in homes and communities, you'll be focusing on that. And if you're in diet and lifestyle, you'll be focusing on that. So it depends what work stream you're in. We'll then have lots of opportunity today to discuss, after we've heard some of those different perspectives, some of the different proposals for change and begin to identify provisional areas of opportunities for focus for the recommendations on each of the topic areas. So again, we'll be going into our groups, we'll be having those discussions. That's when we'll be starting to get into the mindset of thinking about some of the recommendations and making some preliminary notes. And there'll be an opportunity for us to hear in our different work streams in a plenary setting, some of the things that are coming out from those discussions. And then after that, we will be giving you a bit more information about the actual process for developing the recommendations. It's really, really important that we all understand the proposal for how they're going to be developed. So you'll be receiving some information about that today. And of course, it'd be something we can discuss as we go through this process too. And then, really excitingly, I think, we'll be moving on to begin the process of building recommendations this weekend. So what we'll be developing this weekend, and it's really important to say that this is not going to be the final output, as it were. It's not going to be the final kind of text of a recommendation, but what it's going to be is the start of developing them. So we'll be developing a recommendation framework template. Your facilitators will show you that when we get to that point tomorrow for the 4 questions that are part of each stream. So this weekend, in weekend 3, I've mentioned that in each work stream, there are 4 questions we're tackling. This weekend, we'll be focusing on 2 of those questions. And then in weekend 4, you'll be hearing the next 2 questions. And we set it out in this way so that you can kind of take them in chunks, hear all the information, have opportunity to process and to discuss that, and to jot down your thoughts around those questions before you then move on to the next one. So hopefully the pacing of the weekend works for you, but of course, really open to hearing your feedback on how that's going as we move through. And just a reminder before we jump into this morning about the conversation guidelines. So I'd said last weekend that I won't repeat them every weekend, so I won't repeat them again, but please do continue to work on the basis of the agreed conversation guidelines and proceed in that spirit. Okay, that's all for me just now. I believe we're going to move on now to Tim, who I would like to introduce. So this weekend, I mentioned we have 3 different work streams. So that means that each of the 3 work streams has a different lead facilitator. So I'm going to introduce just Tim Hughes here from Involve, who you haven't had the opportunity to meet before, but he's going to say a quick hi, who is going to be leading the Home and Communities work stream.
Good morning, everyone. Really fantastic to be with you and looking forward to working with you through this weekend and the next couple as well.
Brilliant. So that's Tim. And otherwise, you're going to have myself for the travel and work stream, and you're going to have Kayla as lead facilitator for the diet and lifestyle workstream. Brilliant. Okay, so Tim, I believe I'm going to hand over to you in a moment, but first of all, I'd like to welcome our conveners who are joining us this morning.
Hello, everybody. It's Josh Littlejohn here, one of the conveners alongside Ruth. Hope you all had a great Christmas and a great break. It's great to be back with you all today. So just firstly, I'm looking forward to joining you on the work streams today. I'm going to be on the diet and lifestyle one, and I know Ruth's joining one of the other ones. And just a reminder, I suppose, to everybody that everyone's come to this process with different levels of knowledge, and we all learn differently. So, let's just have an understanding of that in the different work streams, as we all learn more about the specifics of the climate change issue within those streams. Ruth?
So hi folks, it's Ruth here, the co-convener with Josh. A very warm welcome from me as well on this chilly Saturday. I'm going to be joining the home and communities work stream, so look forward to sitting in on that with you. It's great to be back. Just to reaffirm what Josh has said, this assembly, the Citizens' Assembly, is of huge value to the whole nation of Scotland, particularly because of the diversity in this group in front of us. This is a huge strength of the Assembly. Partly because of this, the recommendations that you, the members, are going to make will carry significant weight. So the members, that's yourselves, ordinary folk, you who represent Scotland, are sharing a journey of learning and deliberation and making powerful recommendations through this inclusive process. So welcome once again to Scotland's Climate Assembly. I think back to you, Josh, for a final wee communications.
Just a reminder to everyone that, if anyone has any questions or concerns or anything they want to raise with myself or Ruth, then we have a dedicated email address now, which is convener.scottclimateassembly@gmail.com, and I'll just put that in the chat so that everybody has that, and feel free to drop us a note with anything that you wish to.
Great, thanks very much, Josh and Ruth, for that. So as we've heard from Ian and Kelly, this morning is all about effective change and how we can create it. So we're going to kick that off by first hearing from Anna Burney from Forum for the Future, who's going to talk to us a bit about how change happens. So over to you, Anna.
Thank you. Good morning, and it's lovely to be back here. I won't spend too much time, but this morning, introducing this, but this morning we're going to have a look at a video that really starts to get ourselves thinking about how does change happen and how does effective change happen. So a lot of the content you'll be hearing over the next 2 weekends will be about what needs to change in these different work streams. But before we dive into them, we want to think about how does change happen? How might change happen? In weekend one, we did have a look at the idea that change is possible. Change is happening all the time, and it is possible to influence change. And we also watched the rock and roll video. So I don't know if you remember that, where we looked at the different role of finance, policies, economic, technology, and the different actors who kind of create the change in production, consumption, and behavior that all come together to create effective change. So this morning, we're going to now watch a video to continue that exploration and really thinking about who are the actors. So what are the different roles that the actors have and they play in creating that change? And then after that, later this afternoon, this morning, we'll be looking at how we might dive into that a bit more. So over to whoever's going to start showing that video.
Great. So thank you very much to Anna for that video, and to the speakers as well. It's given us a huge amount to think about, and I'm sure you're raring to go with discussions. So we will now be moving into breakout groups until about 5 to 11. So over to the producers to move us into the breakouts.
Welcome back into the room. Hopefully that got your Saturday morning brain moving. And with all these things about change, there are different ideas that people believe in and feel are possible. So we expect you to not all think the same, to think differently. And this morning is really to think about what are the things that you agree about and what things you disagree about, And how can you start to formulate as a whole assembly around what the recommendations be? So it's really getting those juices flowing and getting you thinking about change. So the rest of this morning, we're now going to dive into 4 different stories, 4 different future scenarios that are really based on the evidence and based on what is possible and what is happening at the moment. So I'm just going to introduce you to the framing of that, to get into it, and then you're going to explore those different stories. So let me share my screen. So why explore future pathways? Why do we need to look at the future? Or how can the future help us understand how effective change happens? So the future, we can't predict the future. We can't know what is going to happen. This is not a prediction exercise. So any given moment, there are a range of possible futures. Some are short-term, some long-term, some are preferable and some are unwanted. So we really do expect you to react to these stories by saying, this is not actually what I want for our future, or this is definitely how I want our future to be. So, but what we do know is our decisions today, and this is what we're here to talk about, our decisions today do shape the type of futures that are possible tomorrow. So this really is about stretching our imaginations and our thinking to understand what kind of decisions we want to make today to shape that future. So future stories, just to pull out a few of these from the discipline, help us really pull together the different threads. So for the rest of this weekend and next weekend you're together, you'll be looking at these different issues of home, communities, diet, lifestyles, lots of different threads, but it's very hard to know how they come together. How do they start to pull together as a complex issue, a story that makes sense together? So this morning is really about helping us think about how these issues might work together. It's also helping us look at it from different perspectives. And we purposely exaggerate some of those perspectives to help us understand whether be it middle ground or whether compromise or what kind of future we might carve out of these different perspectives. So all the evidence in these scenarios exists today. None of this is fabricated. This is all based on evidence, but they are put together into slightly extreme versions of different dynamics that we might see. And it's really there to help you find solutions, to help you find ways forward. By going broad, it actually helps people come together. And we as an organisation have been working this for 15 years, but actually this discipline has been going since post-World War time. So we're about to hear 4 different stories based on 4 different scenarios, which, just to be clear, really integrates the evidence you have and will be seeing over the weekend. This is based on evidence. This is based on both science and understanding of what's needed to get to a net zero future. This method is widely used across policy environments, across industry, and academia use it. And these tools, and we're very excited about this, are becoming more democratized and used by yourselves in communities and citizens' assemblies. So this is kind of a credible methodology, but at the same time, it is about storytelling and about different narratives. So the 4 stories. We have 4 stories that have 4 underlying themes to them. And really picking up on what you've heard this morning, you've been talking about how do we change the rules of the game? What's the role of government? Are we looking at government to take control, to marshal a response, to really think about how they might jump in and take a lot of agency and power to help create change? Or are we trying to help them look at supporting as many people as possible? So what's the role of government in this? And also, what is the role of economics? What is the role of how we decide? Are we allowing technology to take over? Is technology the key driver of change? Or is it about our own decision-making, our decision-making at a community-based level as well? So there's lots of different ideas in these 4 stories you're about to hear, and you'll be hearing them in different versions in different order in the different groups. And what we're really inviting you today is to really think about what do we like about these stories? We've put into these stories some of the lovely seeds and ideas that we might want in our future. And what are we not wanting? What are we not seeing? And really thinking about how does this start framing and creating some principles for decision making around effective change? What does this mean about the different actors, the different roles? and the different future we might want to see from behaviour change through to these deeper structural government and economic issues as well. So I'll now hand over to Kelly, who will take us into those groups.
Great, thank you very much, Anna, for setting us up there. So I'm just going to do a very brief recap of some things that Anna shared there. So you're about to hear 4 fictional stories, which each set at different points in a time between 2020 and 2040. And those stories depict different routes we can take to achieve net zero, where change happens at different levels and at different paces. So please do remember, these stories are exaggerations, they're not predictions or options, but some elements might ring familiar from today, some might not, but they draw on the body of scientific evidence you've been exploring in the Assembly thus far. So it might be a really new way of working to you. You might find it rather creative, but we do recognise as we start getting into more difficult choices, the conversations themselves also do become a little bit more difficult, but that's absolutely okay. We really do want to hear your thoughts and your reactions to the stories, and we're going to work through different ideas and all of those different options together over the next few weekends. So different methods do help people to think about complex and tricky subjects in different ways too. And as Anna was saying, this kind of method is used in lots of different settings by policymakers and academics, for example. So you might react a bit differently to these stories, and we do encourage you to actively listen. And please do get as engaged as you can. Think about what elements you like or dislike. Who are the winners and losers in each of the stories? What are some of the roles that government, business and civil society play in each of them? Come back to that concept of fairness, and we really want you to also listen to perhaps some of the trade-offs. And very importantly, thinking about the heart of the question we're looking at as an assembly, how is fairness and effectiveness balanced in each of them? So we hope you enjoy this. As you're hearing the stories, please do remember to kind of reflect on them a bit and take notes in a way that works for you. But we're going to open our breakout rooms now, and we'll see you back in a little while. Okay, that seems to be everyone back. Okay, so first thing to do, I think, is to thank you so much for your engagement in that exercise there. I think the discussion that we've had this morning will really help to pave the way for ensuring that the recommendations that you'll be creating, and they'll also help us to begin, developing on from here in a way that will be effective, well targeted, and have the potential to cut across the different dimensions where change can take place across society. I think it's really important to acknowledge that may have been quite difficult, that it's quite hard to sit as well with some of this stuff that you've heard and you've discussed this morning, and that also thoughts can take a little while to process too. But it's absolutely okay to have some feelings about this content, and we are going to work through all of this together. But I just want to end by saying that if you do want a chat with any of the support team or the conveners or any of us at all, please just get in touch. But thank you for all getting really stuck into that exercise. Just hearing from a few of the groups, it sounds like you had some really, really rich and far-ranging discussions. So thanks again. Okay, Ian, I'm going to just hand over to you.
Well, just kind of looking forward to us moving into that afternoon session of those kind of 3 streams. From my perspective, I think probably like many of you, I'd like to be involved in all of those 3 streams, but you can't be multiply cloned. So I'm going to be allocated to one of them. I'm going to drop into one, and yeah, looking forward to the afternoon and to start to get to grips with the nuts and bolts of some of these things. So I think we're going to pass on to Kayla to kind of take.
I didn't realise Ian.
Oh, something came out there.
I didn't realise Ian was a film star. I think I've seen about 5 hours of your programmes.
Well, if you hadn't realised, I clearly am, and I'm not, so.
Yeah, no, I spotted him on telly the other day as well.
Yeah.
Slightly
Apologies,
like,
everyone.
I recognise that voice.
I recommend Andy to go and get his big films on YouTube. Really very good.
All right, so we're gonna break for lunch now. Just to say, remember, we're starting again at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So do join a bit early so that you can be, allocated into the breakout rooms and make sure there's no technical issues there. We will be, for the rest of this weekend and into weekend 4, working in, as we said, in our 3 different groups. So you actually won't necessarily see the rest of the group until we come back together in weekend 5. just a reminder to everybody, you will be emailed, and the email will go in the next minute or so, the link for your group this afternoon, because you will be in different groups. It'll be a different link, but also you can go back through the Learning Hub as well. So that's a members hub. It'll have all the different courses lined up. You'll know which one you're allocated to, and you can go back into the Zoom meeting via that way as well. So that email will be sent in a moment. So really just to say again, thank you. And I look forward to seeing the group that I'll be with this afternoon. And I look forward to seeing the rest of you when we reconvene as a whole assembly in weekend 5. So 2 o'clock start, enjoy your lunch, and we will say goodbye to some of the members that you won't see for a couple of weeks, but you'll see them when we come back in weekend 5. So over to you guys, and we'll see you this afternoon.